Good afternoon. Appreciate y'all being here. I told everybody that was at TCU that we'd, rather than ask into season questions, we do this today, and so hold up my end of the bargain. Also want to give you everybody that didn't go to Fort Worth an opportunity to ask some questions. Kind of had a week now to reflect and think back on the 2019 season. 5-7 record, not good enough. It's not going to doesn't meet the standard here. Well aware of that. However, I thought, we were only favored in 2 out of our 12 games, and I was pleased with how we finished the season. I thought we played our best football in November over the last 3 weeks of the season. Excited about our future. Excited about where we're going. Played a ton of first and second year players. We'll return a really high percentage of production on offense and defense. We got some holes to fill in special teams, but a high level of production in offense and defense. Huge offseason for us. I think both in the recruiting aspect and development. Really kind of our focus and what I sent as I traveled to our team last Monday was we've got to be focused on being one of the most improved teams in the country next year. I think the key areas of improvement for us offensively is run game production. If we want to make strides offensively and make strides as a football team, we've got to be able to run the ball better. And then defensively, we've got to increase our takeaways. Those are the two biggest statistical pieces that we've got to make strides in. Busy time of the year in recruiting. Last week was contact, traveling around, hitting guys that are committed or we're trying to get in the boat. Got contact period goes through really next Saturday. Official visit this weekend. Next weekend, got 2 big junior days this month. Plan on finishing strong with the intention of signing most of our class on December 18th. We'll talk more about them. We'll talk recruiting on December 18th. We'll have a press conference that day as well. So with that, I'll open up to questions.
Neal, you've addressed some of the underclassmen that aren't going to be here. Are there any that you know of now besides those you've already talked about?
That aren't going to be here?
Yeah, aren't going to
So
go back.
I think Giovanni went into the portal today. I think he and I are going to meet later today. I haven't had a chance. I just got back late last night, so I haven't had a chance to sit down with him. But he's in the portal. I haven't had a chance to talk to him. Adam Stilley is in the portal, in supportive of him. He wants to go play, and he's been nothing but great here. Worked hard, so I support him in that endeavor, and nothing but positive for him. So I think that's for right now. I think that's it.
As a coach, how difficult is it to get a feel for how active transfers may be?
Yeah, you just try to. I think what you try to do is just build relationships. It's I'll try to keep up with social media. It's not a West Virginia issue. It's not even a Division I football issue. It's kind of the world we live in. There's so much, and everybody's circumstances are different. Like just talked about Stilley, his circumstances are quite a bit different than some other guys. So I think it's part of it. The hardest part is managing your roster, and I think we talked about that at the start of the year. It's just difficult to manage your roster. But I think the best way you can do about preventing those is just building relationships. Now, the playing time piece is what it is. Somebody's not happy with their playing time, then that's been the case for a long time. As far as people leaving because of playing time, that's it. But as far as people just getting upset and things, I think you got to invest time in relationships.
Have you talked to your colleagues about the potential imbalances, the way the system's set up right now? There could be conceivably more kids in the portal than there are spots for people to go.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a point of discussion when we meet as head coaches at the AFCA, whatever, January 14th or whatever it is. And I think and that's probably more of a question for Shane because Shane's on the oversight committee. And I think for the first year or so of the portal, the data wasn't great because you couldn't tell who were scholarship players in the portal, who were walk-ons. I think they've clarified some of that. So I think you'll start getting some – and, again, this is a question for him. But my understanding of it, you'll start getting some clear data on how many put themselves in the portal, how many get out. Because what people don't think about, whether it's the student-athletes, their parents, or whoever's kind of assisting them in their decision-making, is if you take somebody out of the portal, that counts when you're 25. So So every transfer you take, that's a high school or junior college prospect that you couldn't take, and I don't think that always factors in because, you know, you would love to take a kid maybe that you think can be a short-term solution for your program, but if they don't fit in that 25, you're kind of making a decision. Is it a short-term or long-term decision? And so those are sometimes difficult.
And your situation is no different than a lot of people. Whether you're rebuilding your program or not, the numbers just aren't matching.
Yeah. It's almost this one reason why we're putting a huge emphasis on kind of rebuilding our walk-on program and with the point that we have to do a better job of developing our walk-ons, because really the only way you can, in this day and age, to get to your 85 under the current rules is by putting walk-ons who earn that opportunity on scholarship. That's the only reason. That's the only really way you can get to your 85.
You know, you talked about your run game, and obviously it's sort of easy to say we got to improve.
Yeah.
You think about that. How do you improve?
So I think there's the recruiting piece and the development piece. So the development piece is critical. I think that we've got to get stronger, especially on the interior part of that offensive line, and some of that's through youth and just time will solve that. I think that some of it's technique. You know, there's a strength component. There's a pad level component. There's an explosive component to it. We've got to get better. That's why the offseason is so critical. Okay, we got to do a better job of finishing runs at running back. We got to do a better job in space at running back. You can address some of that. Okay, during the offseason, you can get a little bit of that, and then some of it's recruiting. You know, we've got to develop. We've got to recruit guys that can compete for playing time. I think y'all have heard me say this a bunch. The more competition you have in the room, the more push there is to get everybody in that room better. And so we've got to get some more bodies in that room. We've got to get some bigger, more explosive guys in that room. We got to get some more depth at running back. I think those are, it's you know, and we got to, as coaches, we got to look at, all right, schematically, you know, what can we do better? You know, from winter installation, spring installation, how we go about practicing. I mean, when you're as poor at that area as we were, everything's on the table. You know what I mean? Schematics, the whole deal. I mean, that is the number one, and there's a clear gap between that and anything else we got to get better at offensively.
When you did that at Troy, you had that jump from your first year to your second year. What was it specifically that you were able to improve from the first year to the second?
The same two things, recruiting and development. Let me tell you something. The offensive line is the hardest position to recruit. First of all, there's just not very many big human beings. I mean, you know what I mean? So the size component, all right? And then you're looking for guys, like when you recruit offensive linemen, you're looking for either guys that got to add weight, you know, and that are projects a little bit, or you're trying to recruit guys that are the size already, and you just got to get them stronger and get them experienced. And so, you know, there's a small number of those, and it's really, really competitive from a recruiting standpoint. So going back at Troy, what we did, I mean, so the recruiting piece of it was big. You know, we significantly changed our starting lineup. You know, I think maybe we returned – I'm going off the top of my head here, John. So I think we returned either 2, maybe 3 at the most were starters coming back. We added some older guys that helped us immediately. Then we felt like the way we – you know, I think last year, our 4th year, I think 4 out of 5 made all conference. And all those were kids that we recruited out of high school and developed, which is probably – the best way to do it. It just takes some time. And then we went back and were really, really simple early on. Like, I mean, in winter, in spring, into the summer, we didn't have a wide variety of run schematics. And we weren't great. Now, we had 2 really good running backs too now. We had a kid that's still with the Cowboys, and we had another kid that's about 255 pounds that just kind of wore people out. And the guy with the Cowboys about 235. And so those are some of the things we did. I think every situation is different, though.
How much going through Troy helped you through this year and will help you through this winter?
Yeah, well, I think they're all, every situation's different. I think that each kind of, and maybe it's probably like this for you in journalism too, I don't know, but like you learn a little bit on every stop of the way. So, for example, like we had all first-year receivers at Kentucky my first year at coordinated. And we did a much better job developing those guys this year than we did then just because we went through the process before. All right? And that's one of the things that I'm really pleased with Xavier Dye. I'm really pleased with our young receivers. I thought they really improved as the year went on. And that's just an example. We learned from that time at Kentucky. We applied it to a situation that was very similar. We had all mostly first-year receivers, and I thought we did a better job. I did a better job from a offense coordinator standpoint, from a head coach standpoint, of really giving Xavier the tools and kind of helping him develop those guys. As far as just, the one similarity is we finished strong at Troy that first year, and we finished strong this year. Okay, that is probably the biggest piece of it. Now, we had a tremendous senior class my second year in 2016 at Troy. We had a tremendous offseason. Those are to be determined here.
Speaking of those receivers, your oldest one, George Campbell, could apply for a 6th year. Have you looked at that?
Yeah, so he's applied, and we've pretty certain that he'll be approved. Now it's really going to be a decision for him, and almost like a junior, kind of like a normal junior. Will he come out? Will he won't come out? And so I'm supportive of George. Here's the thing: when we got him from Georgia, when we got George from Florida State, we thought it was going to be a 1-year deal. He exceeded expectations for the type of guy he's been. Y'all heard me say this. I think he ended up second on the whole football team in community service hours. He gave some stability in that receiver room. And then he was our best special teams player, starting all 4 core special teams units. And then, oh, by the way, he got significantly – whoever phoned this, I'm going to decline this so you can record. All right. But we got significantly – all right, we got some significant production from him later in the year. Now, if he comes back, I think he could really mold into a high-level receiver. I think he's just now scratching the surface, but I'm completely supportive of him and whatever decision he makes.
You mentioned specialists, Neal. Hunting, is that something you're going to have to address through recruiting? Do you have it on the roster right now?
We won't in the spring. We won't in the spring. We got some guys here that deserve to get looks. Colt McGee is one. Evan Mathis is another left footer, similar to Josh. American similar. All right, he doesn't have the Australian background, but we're going to go through the spring without making any additions, and we'll see where we're at after spring. So I think it's too early to be determined, but I think both those guys have shown some signs during the fall that maybe they could be the guys.
Neal, you talked about a few times during the season kind of going back and watching early tape and progressing and seeing how much better you are. Have you had a chance to do that or even think about just with Jarrett running the offense and how did it look different? Did it look better?
So really all I've done over the last week is I've watched the TCU game kind of in depth, but I haven't. So unfortunately going to have some time over the holidays now. And so really quarterback-wise, and I'm sure I'll get this question, so I'll just answer it kind of together with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and really evaluate Austin and Jared and how they did and try to take the emotion away from each individual game and just kind of see how they managed the offense, how productive they were, decision-making, those type of things, and then really come into January when our guys get back with kind of a clear plan on what direction we're going quarterback-wise from a competition standpoint.
Neal, throughout the season, and not every week, but a couple of times spotted at some high school games on Fridays. Just curious if you're going up to Wheeling for Super 6 this weekend? Yeah,
I would like to. So the way it works is you get one contact period. And so if you go to a game you don't have during a contact period, it counts as my one visit. So if you go to the game, you can't go to the home. Okay, so you got to kind of be careful on how you use that. So I'm not going. I would like to go, but we've got official visitors this weekend, and then there's one school's playing that I need to do a home visit. So so I won't be making it this time. Yep. I would like to though.
On the in-house recruiting, have you spoken extensively with Darius yet?
So we've had a couple conversations. So there's a process you go by that you go through that gives them really good feedback, and we're in the process of getting that returned. And so I'm supportive of the guys. I think it's fair for them to see kind of how they're viewed, and we're supportive of that. And we've been in contact. I'm gonna talk to him again today.
How's your reception been, on the recruiting trail? And anything really surprised you that maybe you thought would be coming in and it's been different?
Yeah. Well, so I think it's a little bit unique, even at some of the other Power 5 institutions I've been at, because, and I think I've talked about this before, is, we held some spot. We didn't get as high a number of commits going into the season, and we did that intentionally because I wanted to find out what some of our needs would be. And I don't think you really know until you play your league schedule, all right, or get into your league schedule is what I should say. So now we've got some spots, and we're in a position where we can finish really strong, and that's the intention. The reception's been positive. I think the reception's been positive. I think the people that we've been on recruiting and I'm talking in the class of 20, saw the improvement. They also see the fact that we've played a lot of young people. So that gives them hope, and they understand that we're going to play the best players regardless of age. So I think that gives some hope. And then we've been really active with the 21 and 22 class as far as getting them here this summer, getting them to games. We had a couple great game day atmospheres that's benefited us as well. And so I think our turnout from a level of player in December and January, now when we're allowed to have these junior days, I think it's going to be really at a high level.
Coach, you recently got back onto social media after the season, and
Yep.
I was just kind of wondering, because you've been coaching since social media has kind of exploded, how it's maybe changed the recruiting process and maybe how you factor it into your recruiting strategy.
Well, it's definitely changed. I think that it is what it is. I think there's some really, and I think this is in social media in general. I think there's some extremely positive things about it. I think there's some extremely negative things about it. And there's probably, and that goes for recruiting as well. But you have to use it. You have to use it. I stay off of it as far as posting during the season, and I try to. I'm really not on it a great deal during the season, just because it takes time. I think you have to be on it during recruiting. I think you need to use it to promote the brand, promote the university, all those type of things. But I think what it gives people exposure. We know more about guys because of social media, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. I stay away from Snapchat. That's kind of their domain. You know what I mean? I stay away from that. But I haven't gotten to the TikTok. I guess I need to kind of educate myself on that. I'm sure Herzl over there on his birthday, you can get on TikTok. But I think here's what I think it's. There's huge benefits of it. There's some negative aspects of it, but from an educate, we have more information on the student athletes because of it. The video access is changed dramatically, because basically like a 22 kid could post his highlights on social media, and myself or our assistant coach or one of our recruiting people could see it. And that normally wouldn't be the case unless you were in a high school and you asked the high school coach, hey, tell me about your younger guys. And they say, well, here, I've got a 22 prospect. And then you go back and you get on Huddle. Now, there it is out there, and you can see it. No different than some of these guys are making a living in recruiting in here.
When it comes to chatter among the coaches or talking with some of the players about maybe coming out early or just going pro in general. Has that conversation changed much with some of these alternative leagues to the NFL starting to pop up like the XFL?
I think it's too early to tell. I don't think it will. I think that what it does, it gives some guys that maybe college careers ended prematurely for whatever reason, it gives them some avenues to pursue. But I don't think you'll, unless somebody's in a real financial bind or something like that, maybe I could see the thought process of leaving. I haven't had any of those discussions with guys yet. Not, like, my one rule of the head coach is I'm never surprised. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if we had to have some of those, but I don't foresee it being an issue right now.
Was there a lesson to take from this season for you?
Now, I think there's all kinds of lessons. Really, I think the league's changed. Gary Patterson and I were talking about it before the game. I think the league's changed. I knew that going in, but going through it, I think there's a lot of parity in the league. I think that you look at across the board, the argument can be made, that we had an opportunity to win. Now, the games we won, we had an opportunity to lose too. I mean, I'm not blind. But we were in every game with the exception of one in the fourth quarter in the Big 12. I think the level of coaching in all three phases is really I think there's improvements, especially defensively, special teams, from when I was in the league before. And I think that where you play everybody and you play 9 in a row, that's a grind. And I'm not sure that any of the other leagues, and I'm not trying to demean any of the other leagues, I'm just saying that's unique to our league. You play 9 in a row, you play everybody, and it's a difficult road.
Neal, your staff had kind of a weird split, guys you coached with before and guys you hadn't coached with before. I think 5 and 5, right?
So
yeah, 5 and 5.
Guys that coached with me before, is that what you're asking?
Right. I think came with you, and then you, and that's something I guess you never really were asked about or talked about, but kind of blending that in, it's almost like a new team and an old team too, and getting them to coexist.
Yeah.
How did that management go?
So I'll just kind of talk about it on both sides of the ball because I think that's kind of how it. So if you look at it defensively, you had Vic and Pogue and Jordan, who had obviously spent the previous 3 years together. Jordan joined us in year 2 at Troy, and then Blake and Vic had a relationship, and then Jamal coming back, who has the ties to West Virginia, and I thought they did a really good job. I thought that Vic and Jamal worked well together in the secondary. I thought Jamal brought some new and unique perspective and ideas into that defensive room. And I thought that continued to progress as we went through the year. I thought our pass coverage got better, and he was a big piece of that as we moved through the year. Offensively, Xavier and Trickett were the guys that hadn't worked with the kind of the core group. Chad and I have been together for a while. Chad had worked with Sean and with Matt at different times. He just hadn't been at Troy during the second run we had. So Trickett kind of knew what we did because he'd been in the Sun Belt. And then Xavier, from a philosophy standpoint of what he was doing at Clemson and how we kind of ran our program and what we were doing offensively, I think there was a lot of crossover. Some of the receiver techniques and things like that, because how the game's officiated, how the game's played in the Big 12 were a little different for him. I thought we did a pretty decent job adjusting on some of our fundamentals and techniques as we went through the year. But I'm pleased. I thought the guys. It's not a selfish group. It's a group that has the betterment of the whole in mind. And so, anytime you're putting a group together, there's always going to be some growth. I think it'll be smoother in year 2 than it was in year 1. I think that's the case anytime. But pleased with those guys overall.
And a lot's going to change in the next 30 days across the country. What is the intent to keep this group together?
Yeah, that's the intent. You never know. But that's the intent. I think that's the intent. There's how many open jobs now, and there's going to be movement over the next 2 months. But that's the intent. I tell our staff is I'm for them personally, but my greater responsibilities to the university and to our football program, and so my hope here is it's a working environment that they want to be part of. They see where we're going, and they appreciate how we're going about getting there, and we're giving them opportunity to grow in their profession. And that's what I want to make sure is that we're continuing to develop them as coaches to whatever their end goal is, whether it's coordinator, head coach, whatever it is. And that's everybody within the whole organization we're developing. I think that's part of the job of the head coach.